Hello, students. We are in the second chapter of this book known as Fundamentals of Physical Geography. The chapter's name is Origin and Evolution of the Earth. This is about how the Earth might have come into existence. It's all about theories and hypotheses. Some of them can be proved, most of them cannot be proved, and we will come across some names of some people whom the rest of the science does not know. So, as a free thinking human being, you may have your own opinions. So, and always have your opinions and always have the spirit of inquiry. So, here we go. Now, the people who told about the origin of the earth were not scientists, they were people like Immanuel Kant, who was a philosopher, and Laplace, who was a mathematician. Now, uh, remember that presently we're talking about the origin of the earth only. We are not talking about the origin of the universe because people were mostly concerned about how the earth might have come into existence. The earlier philosophers were talking only about earth. So there was an hypothesis known as the nebular hypothesis. This was about the origin of Earth as given by the philosopher Immanuel Kant, and later it was revised by this mathematician named as Laplace. As per this hypothesis, the planets were formed out of a cloud of materials. There was a youthful sun, and associated with that youthful sun was a cloud of materials which was slowly rotating. Yeah, here's a pictorial representation of the newborn sun, and this red arrow pointing is a part of the sun's material which broke out when another a star approached the sun. Then, in the year 1900, two people named as Chamberlain and Moulton they said that a wandering star approached the sun, and a cigar-shaped extension of the material got separated from the solar surface, which I just showed you in that picture. And this cigar-shaped extension of material began to revolve around the sun, and it slowly condensed into planets. There were people like Sir James Jeans and Sir Errol Jeffrey who supported this argument. And later it was said that there was a companion to the sun which was existing at the same time and same place, and that might have approached the sun and released a cigar-shaped material into space. Now, this arguments are known as binary theories. In the year 1950, people named Otto Schmidt and Carl Weizsäcker they considered that the sun was surrounded by a solar nebula containing mostly hydrogen and helium gases along with dust. The friction and collision of particles led to formation of a disk-shaped cloud. The planets were formed due to accretion of these particles. So, to show that diagrammatically, you imagine that the center of this disk has got the newborn sun, the newly formed sun. So the region which is in immediate vicinity around that sun is a warm place, and whatever materials are there, if it is a gas, it is in gaseous form. And then there's a line beyond which the sun fails to heat the space, and that line is known as the frost line, beyond which the materials will condense and be in solid form. And in any case, whether it is near the sun or away from the sun, hydrogen and helium both are gases, so they will not condense, they will remain in gaseous state. Now we'll see about the theories about origin of the universe. Now this theory is important for your examinations, and it's a simple theory. It's known as Big Bang theory. It has got an alternative name. It's also known as expanding universe hypothesis. Then the second theory was known as Hoyle's concept of steady state, which is not accepted by the scientists nowadays. So, what is this Big Bang theory or the expanding state theory? Now, imagine you have balloons and you blow them. The dots on the balloons, when they are not blown, are near to each other, but when they are blown, these dots move away from each other. So, there was this man named as Edwin Hubble. He said that the universe is expanding, and a suitable example it can be given of the expanding balloon. Imagine the balloons with dots on it, and when the balloon is blown up, the dots move away from each other at the rate proportional to the distance between the dots. Now you have to assume that the universe may have been compressed into a much smaller space in past. He is Edwin Hubble, who in the year 1920 gave this theory called as known as Big Bang theory. He observed, Hubble observed that the galaxies are moving away from each other. He observed that uh, over a long period of time and using telescopes. This led him to put forth a theory that the universe started off with a big explosion. Again, we don't have a proof for this. As people of science, we all need proof, but there are some certain things we are assuming. These are all assumptions. And this big explosion led to the galaxies moving far away from one another. But the galaxies are themselves not expanding. Only the distance between the galaxies are increasing. Now, here's the part which is difficult to believe. You said that the galaxies are not expanding, only the distance between them is increasing. But the same theory says in the beginning all matter existed in one place as a single atom, or even a smaller particle than an atom, a subatomic particle of unimaginably small volume and infinite temperature and infinite density. Now, here we are not talking about the size of the galaxies, but immediately some 13.7 billion years ago there was a sudden explosion of this ball, and then the matter started to move away from each other, and this explosion led to an expansion, and the scientists say that this expansion is still continuing because we can observe the galaxies moving far away from each other. They also say that some energy got converted into matter. Now, the initial expansion was rapid, but later it slowed down, and the first atom began to form within the first 3 minutes from the explosion. And within 3 lakh years from the explosion, the temperature dropped to 4,500 Kelvin and gave rise to atomic matter. And the universe, which was not transparent to light earlier, became transparent to light. Here is a pictorial representation of the expanding universe. On the left view, we have the Big Bang and sudden expansion at different densities, distances, different period of time. Now, this person Hoyle, he gave a theory known as the steady state theory. It was an alternative given to the Big Bang theory, and expansion of universe means increase in space between the galaxies. This theory considers the universe to be roughly the same at any point of time, but the scientific community favors the argument of expanding universe, or that is the Big Bang theory, because of the observation of moving galaxies, which we observe now. Now, here is a theory about star formation. The distribution of matter and energy was not even in the early universe, and the difference in density caused differences in gravitational forces, and this caused matter to get drawn together. This formed the basis for the development of galaxies. A galaxy starts by accumulation of hydrogen gas in the form of a very large cloud known as nebula. The growing nebula develops localized clumps of gas. These clumps grow into even denser gaseous bodies, giving rise to the formation of stars. Stars were formed some 5 to 6 billion years ago from today. This is a picture of the Eagle Head Nebula. The red dots are the new stars which have been formed. Now, in such terms, when we're talking about large distances, we cannot talk in kilometers or miles. So we talk in the unit known as astronomical unit, and that equals to the time, the distance traveled by light in 1 year's time. That is at the speed of 3 lakh kilometer per second. It will travel some 9.461 into 10 to the power 12 kilometers. That is one astronomical unit. At that speed, it takes sunlight to reach Earth in 8.311 minutes. That makes the sun 149.598 million kilometers away from us. The stars are localized lumps of gas within a nebula. And when I'm talking about the formation of planets now, the gravitational force within the lumps lead to the formation of a core to the gas cloud, and a huge rotating disk of gas and dust develops around the gas core. The gas cloud gets condensed, and the matter around the core forms small rounded objects. These round objects, um, because of cohesion, that is, because of sticking, they form into small round bodies. These round bodies are known as planetesimals, and larger bodies form by collision of these smaller planetesimals. And gravitational attraction causes the material to stick together, and these large number of small planetesimals accrete or they stick to form larger bodies in the form of planets. Here's a diagrammatic representation of planetesimal theory. Our solar system has got 8 planets. Earlier, Pluto was considered to be a planet, but nowadays it's considered to be a dwarf planet because of its peculiarities. There was a celestial object discovered in the year 2003. It was known as UB 313. It was that time science thought that they have discovered a new planet, but upon studying, they found the natures very different, and then they realized that Pluto was also having such nature. So Pluto is no longer considered as a planet. That leaves 8 planets in the solar system. There are some 63 moons in all, and there are millions of asteroids and comets, and huge quantity of dust and gases. And the nebula from which the sun was formed, it collapsed some 5 to 5.5 billion years ago, and the planets were formed some 4.6 billion years ago. The solar system planets can be studied in two parts. One is inner or terrestrial planets, the other one is outer or Jovian planets. The Jovian planets are also known as gas giant planets. Now, the inner planets are the ones which are closer to the sun, and starting from the proximity of the sun, we have Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. These are rocky planets. They do have atmosphere, but the atmosphere is very thin, and the density of the ground is very high. Then there's a ring of asteroids between the inner planets and outer planets. The outer planets are also known as Jovian planets. Jovian means Jupiter-like. So these planets which are similar to Jupiter are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. They have a thick atmosphere of hydrogen gas and helium gas. Now here's a diagrammatic representation of the inner planets and the outer planets. Here's a difference between the terrestrial planets and the Jovian planets. The terrestrial planets, they are formed closer to the parent star where it is too warm for gases to condense. The solar wind blows away uh, the gas and dust from off the terrestrial planet, but it doesn't blow off the gas and dust on the Jovian planets. The terrestrial planets are smaller, and their lower gravity does not stop the gases from escaping. And the Jovian planets are big, so the gravitational hold is not so strong. So, because of the solar winds, the gases which are uh, uh, on the surface, they still stick to the surface. Even though the solar winds are there, the winds are not so intense because of the distance from the sun. Now we'll study about the moon. Earth has got only one natural satellite, and that is the moon. And in the year 1838, Sir George Darwin suggested that the Earth and moon formed a single rotating, rapidly moving body. That body looked like a dumbbell. I have a diagrammatic representation I'll show you. The mass broke off and formed the moon, and the place from where it broke off formed the Pacific Ocean. Now, this Darwin is not the same as Charles Darwin, so keep that in mind. So, according to him, the Earth might have looked like this. The bigger ball is the Earth, and the smaller ball is the Moon. And the Moon eventually broke off, and the place where the Moon broke off, that place we have the Pacific Ocean. But this theory is no longer accepted. There's another theory, it's known as a new theory or the big splat theory. It is now believed that the Earth was hit by an object which was up to three times the size of Mars shortly after the formation of the Earth, and this blasted a large piece of Earth into the space, and that continued to orbit and eventually formed the Moon, and that happened some 4.44 billion years ago. So here's a diagrammatic representation of that object which hurt the uh, collided with the Earth, and because of the impact, some dust and debris got released into the atmosphere, and they coalesced. They got accreted into moon. But this theory talks about the moon of Earth, planet Earth only. But there are two moons in Mars, 53 moons in Jupiter, about 53 moons in Saturn, and about 27 moons in Uranus, and 13 moons to Neptune. If this theory could be true, then something similar might have happened to other planets. But there is no proof, neither to this nor to those. The Earth is believed initially to be barren, hot, and rocky object. Now we are talking about the evolution of the Earth, how it developed. It had a thin atmosphere of hydrogen and oxygen. Notice the absence of oxygen here. Something must have happened then, which converted this red and hot and rocky and barren planet into this beautiful blue and green planet, which contains a lot of water and an atmosphere which is suitable for existence of life. This is an artistic representation of how the surface of Earth might have looked back then. Now the Earth is made up of layers. On atmosphere also we have layers, and in the on the Earth, right to the core also we have the layers. From innermost to the outermost, we have the core, we have the mantle, we have the crust, and then we have the layers of the atmosphere: troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, and thermosphere, exosphere. So this layer structure is also logically arranged. That is, the lighter material, atmosphere is mostly gas. So even the lighter gases are far away from the center of the Earth, and the heavy objects is at the core of the Earth. The material is not therefore uniformly distributed. The outermost layer has the least density and the innermost core has the highest density. This indicates that the Earth contains materials with different characteristics. The Earth, was in a volatile state during the primordial stage. The temperature inside the Earth increased due to increase in density. This caused the materials inside to get separated according to their densities. So what happened was the heavier materials like iron and nickel and cobalt and other things, they sank deeper and they formed the core of the Earth. And the lighter material rose up towards the surface. And after rising up, it cooled further, solidified, and condensed into a smaller size. This led to the formation of the crust as the outer surface of the Earth. And the Earth got heated up due to the impact during the formation of the Moon. The materials got separated into different layers by process of differentiation. The density of materials increased from the crust to the core. So here's a study about the density and the distances from the crust to the layer of atmosphere. You can see that the density is uh, increasing when we go from top to bottom. Now about the evolution of atmosphere and hydrosphere, there are three stages which are important. First one is the loss of primordial atmosphere. That is, the old original atmosphere was removed. The second is the role of the hot interior of the Earth. And the third is the modification of atmosphere by living organisms. Now let's see what do we mean by when we say loss of primordial atmosphere. The solar winds stripped off the early atmosphere, which had hydrogen and helium gas, and this happened to all the terrestrial planets. Here is a diagram showing the solar winds. The planets which are near to the sun, they are more affected by the solar winds. So the four terrestrial planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, they have their atmosphere, the lighter gases removed because of solar winds. Now let's see what is the role of the hot interior. During cooling of the Earth, gases from and hot vapor were released from the interior of the solid Earth. This started the formation of atmosphere. Remember that science says that you cannot create or destroy matter, you can only convert matter from one state to another. Also, you cannot create or destroy energy, you can convert energy from one form to another. But here we find that water vapor and gases are released from the interior of the earth, and the textbook also says it is from the interior of the solid earth. We have to take it at the word, and this started formation of the atmosphere. The early atmosphere contained water vapor, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, methane, ammonia, and very little oxygen. Here again, we have to assume that all these gases started off from hydrogen and helium gas. Also, the science doesn't say anything about what the dust was made up of. Now, the process by which gases came out of the interior of the earth is called degas. This is an important definition for you. So, it's very simple. The gases just came out of the earth, from the interior of the earth. And continuous volcanic eruptions contributed water vapor and gases to the atmosphere. As the earth cooled, the water vapor started getting condensed. The carbon dioxide in the atmosphere got dissolved in rainwater and decreased the temperature further, and this led to more condensation and more rainfall. The rainwater got collected in depressions to form oceans. The oceans were formed within 500 million years from the foundation formation of the earth. So the oceans are some 4 billion years old, considering the earth to be 4.6 billion years old. And some 3.8 billion years ago, something happened which made the life to evolve on Earth. Now here again, when we say that all this rainwater they got collected and formed the oceans, and in the previous slides we said that water vapor came out of the uh, interior of the earth, which was already solid. Again, these are controversial statements, but we have to believe that because our textbook says so. Plants which could do photosynthesis came into existence some 2.5 to 3 billion years ago, and these plants apparently started off inside the oceans, and the oceans got saturated with oxygen gas, and when because of saturation they started contributing to the atmospheric oxygen, and this happened because of photosynthesis. That is the reason the heading of the slide is modification of atmosphere by living organisms. Some 2 billion years ago, oxygen began to flood the atmosphere. Here's a pictorial representation of the process. We have the primordial atmosphere on the left and the modern atmosphere on the right. Then again, we have the topic of origin of life. Initially, the atmosphere was not suitable for development of life, but scientists consider origin of life as a type of chemical reaction which first generated complex organic molecules and assembled them as living beings. Science itself says that living things can give rise to living things. But again, here we have an assumption. We are saying that living things were started off through non living or dead objects. The assemblage of these chemicals was such that they could duplicate or replicate themselves, and this converted non living things into living beings. This is the end of the chapter. I am Sam sir. If you like this chapter, give it a thumbs up. You are not expected to know everything, but just use your intelligence. Most of it is logical. Just follow that logic. I'll see you in the next chapter. Bye. Bye till then.